Hey everyone, welcome to Financial Revelations, the after-election version of Financial Revelations. And I gotta tell you, I'm not even gonna go into all the stuff that I usually go into because I cannot contain myself. Corey's gonna put it all down here, contact information, all that. We got an Amazon trip in March of 25, TVOSUSA.org. This is the greatest day in America since 1776. This is the impact of what happened last night. And I probably look tired because I didn't go to bed until 3:30. I would have still been up, but we had a big storm or something and my internet went out, and so my TV wouldn't work. I'm like, well, I'm going to close my eyes just for a minute. And then I woke up when my alarm went off. But we are about to save our great country from the tyranny of the radical left. This is the greatest country that has ever been. It's the greatest country that probably will ever be. I'm constantly enthralled and proud of our country, but I don't know that I've ever been more proud than what happened yesterday. You know, if you watch the podcast, if you've been with us for a while, you knew this was going to happen. I predicted a minor landslide, I don't know what, Corey, 3 weeks ago? A minor landslide. What does it take to become a major landslide? It takes one of the, or at least one, but maybe even two of the Pacific Northwest states like Washington, Oregon, California. Well, that wasn't going to happen, but it looks like every swing state, the blue wall, the Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, they all went Trump. And it was when most of the major news sources called Pennsylvania last night, and that was pretty late. It was 1 o'clock, I think. Maybe it was even later than that, but that's when the path for Kamala Harris just ended. She couldn't do it. What are we saving the country from? What is Trump going to save the country from? Well, this whole thing that we have with transgenderism, you know, where we have men and women's sports and puberty blockers for kids. This is insanity. These things, I think, we're going to bring some sanity to these things. Certainly, the unmitigated illegal immigration is going to grind to a halt. Now, there are 74 days in between now and Election Day. So the other thing that's going to stop is this European social democracy movement that the left is seen to be in love with because it puts them in power forever. You know, and most of Europe is not a system like ours. They're not a constitutional republic. They're a parliamentary system where you could serve forever in power. You could be there forever and have the trappings of power and enrich yourself and do all those things that both Republicans and Democrats have been doing. You know, Joe Biden gets a lot of flack for having Hunter Biden on the board of Burisma in the Ukraine, but so is Nancy Pelosi's kid. So is Mitt Romney's kid. These countries that we give foreign aid to, this may be news to you, but for people who are in politics, that know politics and are in the money world, we see this all the time where there is a direct, almost quid pro quo. We're going to give you that foreign aid. Oh yeah, you're going to get it. You're going to get the billions. Oh, by the way, my kid is looking for some work. He's going to be in Europe for the summer. Be really nice to get him a position. Well, he's not going to work at a grocery store, or she's not going to work at a grocery store. They're going to be on the board of directors. They're going to be making millions of dollars. It's, you know, in the last election, we gave, it was really 2020 when Biden got elected and just before that, we started giving money to Ukraine. Well, we gave them a big block of money. Ukraine then gave that money to FTX, the firm that went bankrupt right after the 2020 election. FTX then gave almost the exact same amount to Democrats in the 2020 race. That's called money laundering. And it happens across the political spectrum. And that's why you need people. And by the way, Mitt Romney is very wealthy. He started a firm called Bain Capital, sold it. He earned his money. There's nothing wrong with that. Very, very wealthy, hundreds of millions of dollars. But he could still be bought. He could still be influenced by money because it's, when you're worth 300 or 400 million, there's somebody worth 700 million. I don't know what you could do with 700 that you couldn't do with 300. But it's one of the reasons why I like Donald Trump being a billionaire, because it's very difficult to bribe a billionaire. What is the next billion going to do that the last 6 didn't do? He flies in his own 757. He's got a private jet. It seats 400 people. So we're going to get saved from this European social democracy. We're already seeing this end anyway, but it's going to be put on a fast track to end, which is the ESG, environmental social governance, in the boardroom, and the DEI, the diversity, equity, inclusion, in the boardroom. It's really stupidity. The ESG and DEI is just stupid. It is equity versus equality. Equity means when somebody says, well, we're interested in equity, they want equity of outcome. They want everybody to end up in the same place, regardless of skill set. So let's say we said, well, we want to be equal. Everybody's got the same chance, more or less. I was raised middle class. I didn't come from money. I didn't have money, and I didn't know anybody with money when I came into this business. I was the worst hire ever. Praise God for Ray Sussel, who took a chance on me. I think I was part of the spaghetti strategy at the time, where you take a bunch of spaghetti and you throw it against the wall and you see who sticks. See what sticks. Well, I was one of the guys that stuck. I worked hard. It almost cost me my marriage. At one point, a counselor said, well, are you willing to work when your wife says it's okay? And I said, yeah, here's my calendar. But until then, I once drove to Pittsburgh. Now, I live in the Cleveland area. I drove to Pittsburgh for a $100 sale. I needed to make the sale. And I got there and I got stood up. And I called him. He said, oh, yeah, we forgot. We'll have to get back to you. And I said, no, that's okay. I'm going to be on your front porch when you get home. And I was. I didn't make the sale. But what we just witnessed, what you saw last night and you're going to see over the next several weeks, is the greatest political comeback in history. We also have the chance to dispel, to throw out, I don't want to call them names like they called me garbage and you garbage. I'm not going to do that. But it is the worst political class I think we have seen, at least in my lifetime. And, it's the Obama, Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, Harris-Walz philosophy of, we know better than you. I remember watching an interview with Kamala Harris, and she said, these social networks are out there talking to people with no supervision. That's right. That's called free speech. We have a Supreme Court justice who said that the First Amendment gets in the way of the government. That's exactly right. That's what it's supposed to do. Those rights, our rights weren't given to us to protect us from ourselves. They were given to us to protect us from government. And they have this backwards. It's flipped. That's going to end. So it's just amazing what is going on. It's just, oh my gosh. So I have a relative who's a big lefty. I thought, well, I'm going to be kind. And I was, but I did send them a text this morning. So what happens next? I mean, so we won this election. The conservative right won this election. We took the Senate. It looks like we're going to keep the House, narrowest of margins. But we're going to keep the House, and that is extremely important. Extremely important. It's 74 days until inauguration. Guess who's going to the inauguration? This guy. I'm going to be there. I just reserved hotel rooms. My business partner is going to go with me. My lovely wife is going to go. A few friends. So here's what's going to happen. There's going to be growth, prosperity, accountability. Accountability brings credibility. When you're accountable, you're credible. And that's what we're going to do. We have so little accountability across government today. People do whatever they want, spend whatever they want. There's never or rarely ever a cost. In Ohio, Sherrod Brown got voted out. He had been in the Senate for 3 terms. Former neighbor of mine, personally a pretty nice guy. Politically, we don't see eye to eye at all. Bernie Moreno, who I know, has been in my office 2 doors down right here a couple of times. He unseated a long-term, seemingly safe Democrat senator. Things are changing. There's going to be accountability. We're going to use our oil and natural gas and nuclear power. We're going to become, when Trump was president in 2016, we were energy independent. We had built the network. We have more natural gas than anybody. And we could be shipping that to Europe, but the Germans decided not to do that. They decided to use Russia's natural gas. And Trump told them they're going to shut that off at the worst possible moment for you. They're going to do that. And they laughed and laughed. And that's exactly what happened. So our enemies, there's the military that we have. The reason why we have a strong military is so that it's a deterrent, so that you don't have to use it. Because people think, oh my gosh, the United States is going to reach out and touch me. And we have companies now. One of them I've been talking about for a long time is Palantir, an American company that works a lot with the military, does black box things. They can't even talk about them on their conference calls, but they'll say things like, yeah, you could do whatever you want whenever you want because we know what you're doing and we know where you are and we'll kill you while you're doing it. A lot of people think that they were intimately involved in the pager attack on Hezbollah, that they engineered that. They have autonomous drones. They don't even have to be awake to have these drones flying and executing missions, which means taking people out on the battlefield. We need our enemies to be terrified of us. It keeps the world safe. The whole reason Israel is fighting this battle right now is because our enemies are not terrified of us. They were terrified of Donald Trump. If you remember, there was an Iranian general in Iraq planning attacks on our troops. And in the past, we had let that happen. We had let him have safe passage. Donald Trump found out about it and we killed him. That's what the enemy needs to be aware of. We will be respected on the world stage again because our enemies will be terrified of us and some of our friends. We like to think that everybody loves us in Europe and the UN and everything, but that is just not true. And they have their own interests that they have to play towards. They're not always perfectly aligned with our interests, so they're not always working on our behalf. And they need to know that that's going to stop too. You don't have to do everything in our interest, but you can't work against our interests. You're going to see the wall get built. You're going to see immigration grind to a halt. These caravans of people that are coming up from the south, they're not coming here. I don't know. I know we've talked about a mass deportation. I don't know exactly how that's going to work. But I would start with the criminals. I would get the criminals out of here. We have enough of our own felons. We don't need to import them. Did you know that somebody from Venezuela came here? Because Venezuela did empty out their prisons and send them here. Send those people here. We let in a person from Venezuela who had been convicted of murder 21 times. And we let them out into the public. That's what we're doing. Markets are going to be higher. It's not linear. It doesn't go from the bottom left to the upper right all the time, but markets will go higher because tax policy is going to stay where it's at or get better. The dollar will get stronger, which it did immediately this morning. And debts are going to be worked down. Now, we're always going to have some debt. The people that say we should operate with no debt don't truly appreciate the way world markets work and how our debt is a very stabilizing force in the world. But it doesn't have to be an amount of debt that cripples us, which it's getting close to that right now. And we have to govern. We have to make things happen. We made a lot of promises to people that I think are reasonable, to cut government waste, to cut spending, to build our oil and gas infrastructure, to stop this unmitigated immigration, to stop the insanity of the left. We have to follow through on those things. We have to do it. We have to do it without overreaching. And I really do believe that one of the reasons the Democrats got whitewashed last night in what I would call to be a minor landslide is because they overreached. They totally overreached on everything. We had a person in charge of our nuclear armaments, the dispersion of them, where they're at, the tracking of them, who was so suspect to blackmail. He stole luggage. He stole people's luggage from an airport and got caught. That's why in the military, and I know we live in a world that's different than the one that we all grew up in, and some things are more permissive than they were before. But in the military, if you get found guilty of adultery, you lose your commission. And that's not because the military says we love marriage so much. It's because they know the honeypot trap. So you got a guy overseas or a person overseas, they've got a very important job, top secret, highly classified. They go out to dinner one night, and all of a sudden the most beautiful person of the opposite sex is paying attention to them. What a coincidence. What a coincidence. If you could get blackmailed, you don't want those things to come out, so you're going to get blackmailed. Just tell us what you know. That's why adultery is frowned upon in the military. It's not because they love marriage. It's because they love secrets, and they want to keep them that way. Blackmail is a real thing. It happens all the time to people. People get set up unwittingly. They don't know it. You can't have people in positions of power that are highly blackmailable. You just can't. And that person was. Now, admittedly, when they got caught stealing the luggage, they got fired. But it took a lot for them to get fired. And there's several people in the administration that are in that position right now. We got to get the sanity back. That's what we're going to do. Remember in the run-up to 2020 election, they were talking about the adults in the room. These people were the worst of the ruling class we've ever had. This is the greatest day since 1776. Revel in it. Bask yourself in the victory. We deserve it. We do. We worked very hard to get here. Donald Trump worked tirelessly. Scott Pressler turned Pennsylvania probably single-handedly registering voters. When the inauguration is over, we got to get to work. Got to hold people accountable. I am David Safransky, a real American, a happy real American, a true red-blooded patriot, and the voice you can trust.